Hey everyone, welcome back to the Jasmine Ortiz Show. You're here once again with your host, Jasmine Ortiz. I'm super excited to have a wonderful guest on this week. Not only is she a multifaceted entrepreneur, she has a lot of experience both in the American market and the European market. Very excited to introduce Romina Groot.
Hello.
Romina, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience and just explaining a little bit about where you're from and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. I am Romina. I am currently based in Nashville, Tennessee, though I'm never here. I pay rent for an apartment I'm never at because I'm always traveling. I'm originally from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, for those who don't know, born and raised there. I moved to the United Kingdom when I was 18. I went to school there, studied music, actually music performance. That used to be my dream and my goal until I found myself in the music business, which is a lot more fun for me anyway. And I moved to the United States 10 years ago this year, so I'm coming up on my anniversary. And I have a public relations agency. I do PR for artists, businesses, politicians, you name it, I can do it. I host events and I tour in the music industry with artists and as a merchandise manager.
Fantastic. You just hit so many different interesting things that I want to dive into. It's crazy. So let's start first with the beginning, your childhood in Europe. So having come from growing up in Europe, being born and raised there, do you feel you have a different perspective, or if there is a different perspective in Europe on media and entertainment than within the United States?
So obviously I moved abroad when I was 18. So it is very different. I think the United States in general, there's a lot more opportunity when it comes to media and music and entertainment. The country I'm from, the Netherlands, I'm going to specifically talk about that because that's where my experience kind of lies. It's a small country. There's, I think, 18 million people. So it's very teeny tiny. And personally, the music industry there, it is very much alive, but it's very focused on, and, the EDM scene, the house scene, Dutch music. I think the majority of artists that are on the radio in Europe are very much American or from the UK. So, I think the biggest difference is that there's just a lot less of what we have in America compared to what's out there in Europe artist-wise.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. I feel that the United States has kind of been the cultural or pop culture epicenter of the world for a really long time. But I will say that there's a lot of great artists that have come out of the UK or other parts of Europe. And it's interesting to me, even just bringing up competitions like Eurovision and how big that's
Love Eurovision.
As far as popularity growing in the US and people tuning into it, the style of music and the bold eccentricity that a lot of those European artists are unafraid of is really cool for me to see. Because I think in the US, a lot of artists feel the need to kind of fit into a box and be very commercial and not always express themselves in such a vibrant way. So what are your thoughts on that sort of differentiation?
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that you brought up Eurovision. So I grew up on Eurovision. It's my favorite time of the year. I'm actually going to be in Europe this month for it. So I'm not going to the actual festival, but we watched it at my house with my parents at the house like every year. It's a huge thing. I will agree with that.
It's like your Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. And Americans don't really understand it. And obviously they made the movie about it with Will Ferrell, which I loved. I think it was fantastic. And they actually brought a lot of like Eurovision stars into the movie to like sing. I think it's cool. But no, coming back to like, the diversity, I do think that music coming from Europe, obviously, it is different. They are a lot braver. I think, Europe has always been more bolder and open in like, certain aspects of life, to put it that way, as where America can be like a little bit different and like the box definitely is a thing. However, I will say that I can see artists really embracing more of their creative path nowadays and are trying to break out of that box. And I say this to my clients who are, in music too. It's like what's really important nowadays is to truly be yourself, because the media, the music scene, social media, it's all so oversaturated with people that, are trying to do something and everybody's scrolling and they're all seeing the same thing or they're listening to the same thing. So I do think that a lot more people are really trying to actually embrace their true self and step out of that box and, show the world like, hey, this is a thing too. This can be better. And just to touch base on that a little bit more for Europe, I worked with a musician last year. I joined their tour as a merchandise manager who was part of Eurovision, actually. So for me, it was super fun. A couple years ago, it was an Icelandic artist, and people loved it. Like, a lot of the shows in America sold out. And it did really well. So yeah, it is very cool to see that grow over here.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I do totally agree with what you're saying. I think Chappell Roan is a great example of
Yes,
the industry
absolutely.
moving in that direction sort of by force. I think she took them by the hair and was just like,
Yep.
you're coming with me, basically. And her fan base has just gone to show that this type of authenticity was really what's missing in
Yeah.
pop music today. And I love how much she's been able to think outside the box. I love how she can be explicit about her sexuality and also relatable and funny and so many layers of
Yeah.
her music. Whereas I think in maybe 10 years ago, that same artist wouldn't have been as well received. And I think
Absolutely.
other artists like Billie Eilish have sort of paved the way for this. Obviously, Lady Gaga is like
Yep.
number one in eccentricity. But even her music was seen as a little out there, but still very palatable for radio. And
Yeah.
moving into her art pop era and beyond with Tony Bennett and jazz, I feel like she started to break down those boundaries. Even Beyonce with Cowboy Carter being such a controversial album. There's
Yeah.
so many artists trying to break the mold now. So as someone who runs a PR agency, how do you, I guess, mitigate this influx of constant content and music being released? So when you have a music client, what do you tell them to do to kind of stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, PR, people are very sometimes confused of what is PR, right? So just like a little bit of info, PR is public relations. It's your brand as a whole and pushing it to the masses in a positive light. So for me, when it comes to media and press and sending out press releases, music releases, I want to make sure that these press releases and these pitches go to the right, media people. Like, I can't send a pop release to a country writer and vice versa. So I make sure that whatever I do goes to the right people. And whether it's pop or country, it has to go to the right person. As for my clients, when it comes to social content, it can be hard. I've had clients that definitely are like, I don't want to do social media. And the opinions are very, versatile in this. Like, there's people in the music and entertainment industry that will say, you can live life without social media. You don't need it. And there's people that are going to say, no, you do need social media because it's everywhere. And like, that's how you get your name out there. I think it's a bit of a 50-50. There's definitely artists that don't need it as long as they, have the right PR campaigns and they're targeting the right people through different outlets. But let's say like a Gracie Abrams or Olivia Rodrigo, like artists like that, their music is so incredibly relatable. And what I tell my artists nowadays is that whatever you're putting out on the internet, whether it's social media or just like a Twitter post, something, make sure it's relatable and it's authentic, because if it's not authentic, people are not going to care about it. So, if you have an artist like Chappell Roan, who's like super creative and outgoing and loves to show off like all this cool makeup and hair, put that on the internet and be your authentic self, because people are going to love that. And if you're just going to try and be someone else, people are going to be like, oh, like this isn't great, So that's what I basically tell all my clients is be your authentic self, but make sure it's relatable to the audience you're pushing it to. If you're trying to get to 14, 15-year-old girls that love to listen to like sad songs about breakups or boys that are not great, to put it in the nice way, then like make sure that like, you're targeting that audience like that. And I think that Olivia Rodrigo and Gracie Abrams have done a very good job at that. And there's a lot more artists out there that are currently doing that too, that are smaller, but trying to get to that.
You touched upon something super important, authenticity and relatability. This is something that I've noticed become a huge shift in social media personalities, especially in the past 5 years since the pandemic. Once the resurgence, or I guess initial wave of TikTok influencers blew up, there was such a huge push for authenticity, lightheartedness, enjoying the app for what it was, something fun to pass the time when we were all in lockdown.
Yeah.
So I think that's where this idea was sort of born. And then the next generation of social media users, younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha, have really wanted to emphasize that culture. I think that's why certain artists like Madison Beer, for example, who's incredibly talented, has a
Yeah.
phenomenal voice, have had such difficulty really connecting with fans because people have said that she doesn't have some distinct niche about her. Her story is not clear. And I think the story is really what PR can help you with
It is,
and
100%.
get you to that next level. Like Chappell Roan has a super inspirational story. Growing up in the Midwest, being queer, finding her identity, moving to LA, moving back, getting dropped by a label. It's all part of the story. Olivia Rodrigo with the love triangle and the breakups, and Sabrina Carpenter in that same mix and her Disney background. It needs to be compelling.
Yep.
What do you say to an artist that has no idea what their story is?
Well, so a really good example currently, I have a client who's actually not a music client, but a business client. And her story is phenomenal. It's a lady. She is a single mom, but she owns 2 businesses and she has all this property in Florida that she's building out. And for her, it's like basically when I start with a new client, I'm like, hey, tell me a little bit about your life and like let's create this life story into like a bigger story, right? And I think that's what's really important. So for her, she was like, well, I do this and I do this and I do this. And I'm like, this is such an inspiring story. You used to work on yachts. She was, she had a really big position on yachts, like kind of like the below deck folks, but bigger.
Yeah.
And she got pregnant while doing that. She had a child and now she owns 2 businesses. I'm like, this is so inspiring because there's so many single moms out there that are like mid-20s like her that are stuck and they don't know what to do. So really bringing that story out and telling that to the world is so important. And the same goes for musicians and artists because I really do think that every single person has a story to tell. And even if you don't think you have it, you do, because something happened during your childhood that shaped you the way you are today, or your teenage years, or you went through a brutal breakup. There's always something that shaped you as a person to who you are today and the way that you interact with the world and other people. So no matter what, there's a story to tell. And public relations really like hones in on that. It's like, okay, how are we going to bring this out? What do we want to not tell the public? What is really important to you? What do you think is going to inspire other people? And that's as a whole is just, bringing that story to the forefront and who you are.
Absolutely. And I actually want to turn this conversation around and ask you, Romina Groot, what is your story? If you were your own client, what is the story that you would want to tell everyone? And what's one of the most difficult challenges that you've had to overcome to get here?
Gosh, oh my gosh, we're getting deep now.
Hey, I don't like to stay surface level,
I love it. Well, for me, like there's a lot to my story, honestly. So I grew up in the Netherlands, right? I was bullied really, really, really badly from age 6 up to age 18, you could say, to the point where I had to file police reports. I've had trash cans thrown over my head. The Netherlands is I don't know about now because I haven't been there for a long time, but I was different growing up. I went through my emo phase.
Me too.
I grew up, I have a whole tattoo sleeve to prove for it, but I grew up in a very wealthy area, to put it that way, I think. And I went to school with, kids that would be dressed in designer clothes. My mom would always dress me beautifully in like these dresses with bows in my hair. And it was different and people would bully me for it. And it was, it was very brutal, but my whole life, I think that really shaped me to who I am today, to really be resilient and stronger. And I went through a very, very difficult relationship. My first boyfriend was not a great boyfriend. I was very young and it really taught me how to take better care of myself and what not to accept from people. And then my whole life I danced. I did ballet for years. I started playing drums when I was 7. Like I knew music was in my blood. I grew up in a family with a dad that worked in radio and entertainment, and I never wanted to follow his footsteps. I wanted to do my own thing. And that's always something I was very, very firm on. Never wanted his help, never had his help. Everything I did to get where I am today, I've done truly alone. Living in England really changed me a lot. When I moved there when I was 18, I went to school there. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could really be myself without people judging me, which was a really, opening, great thing for me. And moving to America, it was even better. Like my dream since I was a little girl was to move. According to my mom's words, when I was 4 years old, I said, I want to move to America and be famous. The famous part I'm very good with. I don't want that. I'm very happy with where I am, but I did make my dreams come true of moving to the States. I went to school in LA. I started my own business. I've been touring with these amazing artists. It's like everything that I dreamed of, like as a little girl and a teenager, like going to concerts, looking at these tour buses, like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I'm literally living the dream. So,
it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's hard sometimes, but I'm so grateful that I get to like live this life and travel. And I love what I do. Like, yes, days are hard and sometimes I'm working like 18 hours, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I love hearing that you have made your little girl self proud. There's something so validating and beautiful about looking back 15 years ago, and seeing that little girl and how many of those dreams you've already accomplished. I think it's something I have to remind myself of every day. Like, I have so many of the things that I dreamed about when I was little, and I might not be exactly where I want to be yet, but I mean, half of us aren't. And we're always evolving.
About it.
And the thing is, it's so easy to take for granted the things that you've already accomplished. So I just want to really commend you for getting to this point. And I want to dig even more about your experience touring with artists. How did you even get that opportunity, and what has that been like for you?
So it's kind of a crazy story. And just to touch base on what you said, it is really true. We do take it for granted. And I was walking in West Palm Beach the other day in Jupiter, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get to be here right now. It's beautiful. But anyway, so the touring thing, when I was 14, I knew what I wanted at a very, very young age. So at 14, I started volunteering for a music venue in Amsterdam. I was like, I want to connect with these artists. I want to connect with the fans. Like, I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I wanted that at the time. And I started handing out flyers post-show. I would get free tickets to the show as long as I would come hand out flyers. Great. Loved it. I met so many people through that. Bunch of touring artists. They then asked me to come help with a small indoor music festival at the venue, where I did production backstage. I was like making sure the dressing rooms were good, making sure the artists were taken care of. And just through doing that volunteer work at such a young age, I met so many people. And these were touring artists that were coming through from America. And yes, I was a teenager, but I still wanted to meet these people, right? So I kept doing that. And then I started working with a music festival in Belgium, and I was helping them with their marketing. And from there on out, I started my own magazine.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was working with B Stage magazine and Red Ellen magazine. I kind of like switched from one to the other. And I traveled to the US and throughout Europe interviewing these bands, and it went really well. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do more like this touring life. Touring seems really fun and like easy when you're like meeting these people. And then, I kind of started doing local gigs for local artists, selling merch here and there. And I was like, I want to do this on like a higher skill level. And, I was doing smaller venues, and then I got a call. I moved to Dallas so I lived in LA for 5.5 years, and I moved to Dallas during the pandemic because I was like, I need to get out of LA.
Yeah.
And I got a call from this merchandise company like, hey, we have this tour offer for you. Would you like to, hop on this tour? And it was like an amphitheater arena tour when, before this, I've only ever done like tiny little clubs. And I was like, yeah, I can do this totally. And I went into this and I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be interesting. And I made a friend there. His name is Mark Bowe. And he was like my mentor on that tour. And he was phenomenal. And he's still a good friend. And to this day, I'm so grateful for him, like teaching me like really, truly the things that I didn't really know back then.
I think the people you meet along the way that believe in you and give you that cosign even before you really feel like you're truly qualified, those people matter the absolute most. Like, those are the people I'm going to be talking about in my Grammys acceptance speech one day.
No, totally.
Like the people who believed in you when you had like 2 pennies to rub together and you're like, I am so green, I don't know what I'm doing. And I would say that there are a lot of people in this industry who want to take advantage of you, but there are also a lot of wonderful people who see their younger selves through you and want to give you the opportunity that they wish they had.
Yeah, so, and I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. That can just change your life for the better.
It can. And, you know, living in LA, I really noticed that like people will take advantage of you. And I definitely had to learn the hard way because I do have connections and people were like, "Ooh, hey, I want to come to this show with you." And like little me that was 21 was like, "Yeah, sure, come along." And then in the end, it's like, okay, I never talked to these people, but they met someone if they wanted to meet. But no, out of that tour I did with that artist, I've been touring for years now and it's been phenomenal. And I've been working with artists that I never could have dreamt of working with. So that's just my touring side. And then my agency has grown so big in the past year. It's like, I can't even take it on anymore. I started hiring someone, which is such a good thing. And like,
absolutely.
I think about that and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I'm actually finally in this stage where I am able to do that. It's wild.
It's fantastic. If you can talk about it, who are some of the favorite artists or who are some of the really cool artists that you've been able to tour with?
Yeah. So I think the one artist I've toured with 3 times now, I actually took over for my friend and it's still his artist, but his schedule isn't aligned to do these tours right now. It's a band called Incubus and they're phenomenal to work with. The crew is really, really great to work with. The artist is great to work with. I worked with an artist last year. They're called Jungle. They were really great to tour with, good people. And then the Eurovision guy, his name is Dadi Freyer. And I've never toured with a Eurovision artist and I didn't even know it until like I started like looking up, oh, who am I going on tour with? Like who did they ask me for? And I was like, oh, Eurovision, so cool. So it's just fun, And I think with touring, it's like, it is really hard work and you do get up early in the morning and you do go to bed at like 2 a.m. But like for me, seeing the fans happy is so rewarding. And I do the merchandise, right? So they come to me to buy a t-shirt and then they're going to have a t-shirt in their closet for probably the next 30 years.
Yeah.
So
it's a very remind them of like that special moment.
Exactly. And it's a very rewarding feeling to like see fans so happy at a show. And like, obviously, I think I have to kind of take a step back from touring now. And I have over the past year just because my agency has expanded so much. And that's fine. That was my ultimate goal was to like tour for like maybe 8 years or 10 years and then really focus on the agency. But I do realize that like I haven't toured now since last summer and I'm like, I miss it so much.
Yeah, it seems like such a dynamic career.
Yeah.
Being in charge of all these moving parts and city to city, managing how much merchandise you can put out, how much you're selling, how it's doing. I think that's fantastic. So what do you think through all of this has been your greatest skill set?
Communication. I think with everything that's kind of happening in my life and my job as well, PR is communication, right? So I think my greatest skill set, also being Dutch, comes in very handy. We are very direct, but there's 2 things. Yeah, there's 2 things I will touch on for this. So I was always really scared of being alone in big rooms, whether it's a dinner by myself or going to a concert alone. I've really, really, really learned to overcome that boundary. So especially in touring, there's going to be days where nobody wants to hang out with you when you have a day off and you're just going to have to figure it out by yourself. Yeah. So I did that. And, you go for dinner by yourself. And even my mom to this day is like, I can't believe you're doing that. I'm so proud of you. And it's like, well, you have to, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, and I think really learning how to express how I feel about situations, because in the music industry, the entertainment industry, it's very easy for people to walk all over you. And I've definitely let that happen in the past where I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, but I've definitely reached a threshold now where I will speak up for myself, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in work. I will always be like, hey, like this is where I set a boundary and this is not how it's going to go. communication and leadership in that sense, I think really fall into one, are my strongest skill sets at this point.
Yeah, and just being confident in your ability to make the right decision at the right time. I think there's so much power in feeling confident and comfortable enough in your own skin to go and do things by yourself.
It's hard.
It's so hard. That was something I also had to work on after college because all my friends moved away. I was thrown into a long distance relationship.
That's me right now. So
yeah, and I felt so alone that I couldn't just sit and mope all day. I mean, besides, working on things for my artistry career and doing things on my own, I had to go to museums by myself. I had to walk around the city by myself and find comfort in my own company.
And long distance will teach you that too. That's a tough one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been in a long distance relationship for 2 years now. And there's definitely moments, sorry to break up the conversation about something else, but there's definitely moments where it's like, I wish you were here, and then you have to go do it by yourself. So I think that definitely maybe plays a part in all of this too.
Absolutely. But I think being long distance or having the experience in being a long distance relationship is so valuable for both of our careers. Yeah. Because you and I have careers where we have to fly across the country at a moment's notice. We have to go on tour. We have to support an artist at a last minute event. And our partners have to be understanding of that. And it's really, I think, useful to have that foundation, even if you do end up being in the same city.
Yeah, and having a supportive partners, I think, is really important. Obviously, there's people that are doing this that are not in a relationship, but, I do think that if you are in a relationship and you are in this career field of entertainment and business and music, it is crucial to have a supportive partner.
Yeah, and you have to be so confident in your bond and in your trust, because there's so much trust that goes into it.
Yeah. And I work with I would say 90% males. So I need my partner to be trusting me. And I think that's crucial. And there's definitely people that don't have that support that I've noticed in situations where I'm I'm always I'm so sorry that you're struggling with that, because you need someone to back you up when you're away from home.
Absolutely. I think it's comforting to have that connection. I wanted to ask you also, who inspires you the most in your life? Who or what inspires you the most?
Honestly, I think my parents. I think that's a very standard answer for a lot of people, but they have really shown me so much resilience over the years. And they still do. My parents are older. My mom is 72. My dad will be 77 in May. And, they had me at a little bit of an older age, and they have worked so hard, to have a good life. My dad, he had his own business growing up. He had a radio jingle company. He had the biggest radio jingles all over the world on the radio. And my brother owns it now, but he used to travel to San Diego and Dallas and LA, and he was still such a good dad. And there was a period that was really hard for us as a family, but I think it only brought us closer after all. And just seeing that and seeing them still being together to this day and working hard for that, even though times can be very challenging, because people get older and your parents get sick and all of that. I think, seeing how they handle that is incredible. And I take pride in that every day.
Wow, I love that answer. I know, I'm not gonna cry. I know, like you said, it can be a typical answer, but everyone's reasoning is different. And I love to hear your personal experience with that. I'm sure your parents are so proud of you.
Yeah, I hope so. My dad can be a tough cookie, but...
Hey, as every good dad should be, right?
Yeah.
What are your favorite moments so far in your career? Some of your proudest accomplishments?
Ooh, my proudest accomplishments. I think, honestly, this past month has been really good for me. I signed 3 new clients in a month for, that's actually the first time in my PR agency history I signed 3 new clients in a month.
Okay, let's go.
I think that's huge. I'm woo, let's go. I think there was an artist I worked for. I can't name any names, sadly, but I did a couple shows where I was oh, this is really cool. And I'm really proud of this. They were football arena shows. So I was this is huge. And I wasn't touring with them. It was just a local show. But for me, I was ooh, this is cool. And I think making the move to America, that was really big for me. And there's obviously challenges that come with that and being really far away from your family. I have no family here.
Yeah.
I have an uncle in Vancouver, which is far away.
Yeah.
So we see each other like once a year if I come through on tour pretty much. Yeah, I think that those are my proudest moments. And definitely I think making the dream come true and coming to America. I mean, it sounds so basic, but it's like coming to America. It's like the movie. But
Yeah.
it's such a
I
real
love
thing.
those movies. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who is entering this career field now if they were trying to do what you do?
Network. I mean, be your authentic self, like we were talking about earlier. Don't change for anyone. Don't let anyone walk all over you because people will try. But network. And I think that's something that I started doing at a very young age is just meeting people and go out by yourself and go to networking events. It doesn't matter if you're alone. And I know it can be really scary. But if you just go and introduce yourself, you will never know who you're going to meet. You could meet someone that's going to, fund your company, or you could meet someone that's going to give you your next job. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need to network. And I'm like, no, you do, because it will get you to where you want to be.
Absolutely. Networking is, I think, the number one tool you can have in your toolbox. Being able to
Yeah.
communicate with people, pitch yourself basically as a
Yep.
brand or whatever you're working on the
Yep.
spot. Those skills are invaluable. I mean, that's how we met. And I think we
Yeah, no,
formed such an
absolutely.
instant connection.
Yeah.
And I think, it's important to build on those relationships and check in with people and, follow up with their career, because you never know where someone will end up down the line. And it's so
No,
great to
absolutely.
have people in your corner who you can turn to at a moment's notice. I think that's great.
Yeah. And coming back to the networking thing, it's what I'm starting to do now is I'm starting to host these female networking events all over the US. And they've been really good. I work together with one girl in West Palm Beach because it's nice to kind of, work together on these things. And we host West Palm Beach networking events. But me, myself, and my company, we are hosting these female networking events all over the US. We have one coming up in San Diego on July 24th, I believe. And then we have one coming up in Nashville on June 12th. And my goal is to bring just the female entrepreneur creative community together, or whether you're working for a business or you own a business. I think it's important. And, I have seen so much luck with it on my side. I want to make sure that these other women get that same opportunity. And it's been really fun to do. And, the first one we did in West Palm Beach sold out immediately. The feedback was great and people have got new business from it. And that just tells me that there is a niche for this and we need to expand it.
Yeah, I think the only other organization that I really see doing something similar is Women in Music. And of course, they have such a specific focal point. What you're doing is even more multifaceted because you're inviting people across different businesses, across the entertainment industry and beyond, who are involved in entrepreneurship. And women especially need that support of a community. And to meet someone who is actively building that up, not gatekeeping, and trying to expand this community across the country is super inspiring. Yeah. So how do you go about creating these events? Because it seems a little intimidating in a city that you don't live in.
It's hard. So I've lived a lot of places in the US. I've lived in LA, Dallas, San Diego, Nashville. I even lived in Bethesda, Maryland for 3 months, which was wild. And then my current boyfriend is in Florida, so that kind of gives me that base over there. That's why I'm starting to the first events I'm doing is Florida, Nashville, and San Diego, because I know my way around there. But I basically try and find a venue, preferably female owned, doesn't have to be. The venue I'm working with in San Diego is male owned, but it's a beautiful event space. And I go into finding vendors, female local vendors, whether you're a hat bar or a beverage company or a food company. Either, you can be a sponsor, you can be a vendor, you can come in. And it's really fun. And, I try and promote these events, and women come to it and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. And they meet people, but it takes a lot of work because I'm doing the vendor outreach, the sponsor outreach, the venue outreach, the social media assets. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But the end result is so rewarding. And it's these women are happy. They meet new people. They have new business. And that's really all I want to see, is to see these other people succeed, because we can see each other as competition, which, I think a lot of people do. But I see everybody that owns a business or works in the industry or any other industry as a peer. And I want to see everybody succeed. That's my ultimate goal. I don't see anyone as competition. Sure, it is competition. Do I see it as competition? No.
I think that's a healthy mindset because, especially in this industry, we are pushed to be so competitive and
Yeah.
almost negative minded towards other artists or other
Mhm.
creatives. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it because what you really serve to benefit is not only community, but collaboration, potential for
Absolutely.
partnerships down the line. I think there's so many more benefits to keeping an open mind and networking in a way that builds everyone up at the same time. I mean, like they say, rising tides raise all ships. I
Yep.
do fully believe that. Same thing with my friends who I met in college who are fellow musicians or producers or entrepreneurs. If I find success before they do, I want to bring them up. If they find success
Absolutely.
before I do, I would hope that they would want to bring me up too. And
Mhm.
I think that relationship is so important in this industry.
Yeah. But I do think that some people don't look at it that way. And
Yeah.
it's sad to see because I've met people that don't see that and they see you as competition, as where I'm like, if I were in your shoes, I would lift you up all the way and I would help you get to the top. But I think it comes back to like how someone was raised, and it's really going back to that story that we were talking about earlier, because some people are also taught a certain way and how to behave a certain way, and they kind of don't grow out of that box. As where I personally was always taught, be kind, respect everybody. And I think that's important. And especially as a business owner, like, you're going to have employees, you're going to have interns, you're going to work with a variety of different people with completely different personalities. And I think, it's always going to be important to lift each other up and support each other, no matter where you are in life. If you have a $5 million business or if you have a $20 business,
Yeah.
always support each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I've loved this conversation so much, Romina. Can you
Yay.
please share with everyone how we can continue following along with your journey, both with your PR agency and you as an individual?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys can find me on Instagram. My PR agency is Groot Public Relations, Groot, like the little tree in Guardians of the Galaxy, if that's easy to remember.
I can't help but think about him. I can't.
Yeah, that's my last name and I'm stuck with it. They went off and made a character based on me, I think. No, so at Groot Public Relations on Instagram, and Events by Groot for any female networking events. And then my personal Instagram, which honestly is kind of boring, is just Romina.Angelina, but I don't post a lot.
Thank you so much for your time, Romina. It's been
Of
truly a
course.
pleasure. And I hope some of the people listening end up at one of your networking events.
I would love that. Everyone's welcome. Thank you,
right,
Jasmine.
Bye. See you guys next time.